Okay, so this afternoon we just want to take you through the steps of how we make our homemade apple and pear cider. So this is the end of August in Iowa, and we just about a week ago, I think, almost a week ago, we were blessed to have our dear good friends come and help us pick. So we got all the apples and pears picked, which was such a blessing because that takes a long time. And so it didn't take very long with the help, just a couple hours. And so now, one of our so I had said this before on one of my other videos when we did this, but I'll just say it again if you don't watch those other videos. So when we pick our apples and our pears, we separate them into 3 groups. One group is for freezing and eating fresh and sharing. So those are going to be your premium, right, off the tree. Then the second bucket is kind of seconds. That would be good for ciders. And then the third are little ones, or ones that fell off the tree, or ones that had a lot of bug bites or whatever, and those go to the animals, goats, pigs, things like this. So really we are able to use all of it. We don't waste any of our fruit, which we're thankful that we can do that. So now, the steps in apple and pear cider as well, they kind of go hand in hand. So once you pick them, and this would be our seconds, so we put them, we have tanks, like livestock tanks, we line it with plastic, and then we put cold vinegar water into these tanks. Now we keep them in the cooler to help keep them cool. I mean, if depending on your situation, you could keep them somewhere where there's air conditioned. I would assume that would be good. So we keep them in the cooler though, and we have a lot. So then you put this fruit into the vinegar water. We let it set for probably 1 day. You could probably let it set for a couple days if you needed to for time purposes, but we do about 1 to 2 days. Now, the riper though the fruit, the better. The more cider you will get out of the fruit if it is a little overripe. So that's another reason that you can let it set for a couple days, because it's going to ripen more. So, or if you didn't pick it and you were a little later in picking it and they were quite ripe, so maybe you didn't have many of your first bucket, which would be eating fresh, but don't worry, they won't go to waste. Put them in your cider bucket, and then that way you will be able to use it still. So, okay, so now they're in the tank, the vinegar water. Now we're ready, after the first or second day, now we're ready to press it. So first, so you can see one of my other videos that we actually showed you the cider press that we used. Our other neighbor was so wonderful, let us borrow it this year. So you can see the video of how we did that. But anyway, so it has a crusher on the top, like a grinder crusher on the top of this. So you put the fruit into it, turn it, some are electric, this one was manual, turn it crushes it up into the bottom. Then after a while, then you have the bucket filled up, take that off, or scoot that to the side, then you put the cider press, the press part. Then it presses it down, it gets the cider out of it into the bucket, into the pot. Okay, so after you do all that, now we just have cider into the pot. So we use turkey fryer pots. So we have 2 of them, and so they're pretty tall. So that's why they really work perfectly for this. And so then we strain it, because sometimes you get little pieces of apples or seeds or whatnot in it. And so we strain it into a 4-layer, or through 4 layers of cheesecloth into the other pot. Okay, so now it's pretty clean and strained out. Then we take that pot onto our outdoor cooker, and we heat the cider up to maximum 150 degrees, minimum 120 degrees for just a couple seconds. It doesn't have to be for a long time, but that is going to make it to where later on this cider will not fermentate. So it will not become alcohol. This will be safe for kids, for people, for just regular cider. We do not want fermented cider. No, 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 no. Not here on my farm will you ever find fermented cider. So that's why we have to do this. We heat it up, but like I said, it's for a couple seconds. Then we turn the heat off, and then we pour it into our half-gallon jars. Okay? So once we pour it, we immediately, now remember it's hot, so be careful, immediately put your lids on, okay? Because that heat is going to help seal these lids without having to can this. So you do not need to take that other step, which sometimes you do when you can other things. We don't need to put this through a canner, a water bath. Now, if yours doesn't seal for some reason, you can water bath can this. I believe it said for 10 minutes in water bath canning if your lids don't seal, because that's another thing too. if they don't seal, it's going to go bad. So please make sure it's sealed. Don't drink or eat anything that's unsealed. It's not a good idea. So there you go. So now, okay, so we were blessed that all these sealed. We didn't have any problems, and we have 22 half gallons, which in turn is 11 gallons of apple cider. So that's like so amazing. If you look at my other videos on my channel, you'll see how many apples that got us to 11 gallons of apple cider. So now we are in the middle of finishing up the pear cider, so I'm going to take you to the back deck to show you it is on the outdoor cooker right now. So be right back. Okay, so we're on the back deck, and here we have the pear cider is heating up, like I said, and it's not quite there yet. So we just really turned it on, so it takes. I mean, this is a lot of cider, and this is not all of it. This is just our first pot. Now, if you can see, it's kind of like foaming at the top a little bit. The apple cider did the same, and all you have to do is when it reaches the temperature it needs to, which is, remember, 120 to 150. When you turn it off, just skim off the foam. It doesn't do anything. It's just foam. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So, all right, I'm back. Sorry about that. The puppies were getting the rabbit. So, okay, so you skim off the foam, get rid of it, and then, like I said, pour it into your jars. Remember, it's hot, so be careful. It's very hot. Pour it into the jars, put the lids on it quickly, let them seal. Now, after they have sealed and they have cooled down, wipe off your jars, the outside, because it always gets sticky. Like, we had to wipe off all those apple cider ones somehow or other. Everything that we always do, honey, food, juice, water, I mean not water, but fruit, vegetables, it's always sticky in the end. So just wipe it off, and then you label it, and you're set to go. So just, okay, hold on 1 second. Now we're at the point our pear cider got to the right temperature, and now we're going to skim the foam off and ladle it into the jars. So I'm just using this to skim the foam off. As you can see, it comes off really easy. Comes off really easy. And you know, not a lot of people have heard of pear cider, so it's very interesting. It's very delicious. Oh yeah, and one quick thing I forgot to say at the beginning of the videos. Now, what we do, which may be kind of unique as well than other people, is that we put together, like I said, when we're picking, you know, like I said, we put it in seconds, but the thing is that we use all of our varieties. So for apples, all of those varieties go into one cider. So you really get a unique flavor because, you know, it's not just like Honeycrisp cider, or it's not just Red Delicious cider, or whatever the case may be. We do every single variety of apples that we do, we mix it together, and it tastes delicious, and it really does. Same with the pears. It's all of the pears. We have red pears in here. We have Bartlett pears. We have what other kind of pears there is. Now, the only pears that we don't put in here that we did not pick are our Asian pears, because they were not quite ready yet. So those are the only ones that are not going to go into this. But yeah, so it really gives it a unique flavor to add all the varieties of the type of fruit together. And also, something that people, you may not know, the difference kind of between cider and juice. Because, you know, you may have hear a pear juice more than you would hear a pear cider. And the difference of that would be that cider gets in contact with oxygen, and that is why it has the browner color. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just like when fruit hits oxygen, it starts tinting to be brown, right? We don't put lemon juice. We don't put anything in our cider. It's just the fruit. So that's why it turns to this color. Now, juice, me and my husband were talking, and that does not come in contact with oxygen. And also, I have a feeling that maybe the juice, they put lemon juice in with it to keep it from not turning brown. And also, I believe that they dilute juice with water. So, yeah. Alright, give me a minute and I'm going to try to get the rest of this foam off. I'll be right back. So I'm back. We got the foam all skimmed off of here, and now we're going to ladle it with this pot into the jars. Like I said though, it's still very hot, so we have to be careful. And we don't filter it again. I mean, you could if you really were particular about it, but we don't worry about that. That's a really pretty color too. Now it really looks similar to the apple cider, so we definitely have to label this so we don't get confused and forget which is the pear cider and which is the apple cider, because that could happen, right?
You didn't share that one, Tim. Whoa, mine.
As you can see, this is why it gets a little sticky, because it kind of spills out a little bit. But you can't really help it. So I'll be right back. Alright, so we now have finished the pear cider, and before was the apple cider we finished. So now all of our cider for this year is done and in the jars and sealed. So we ended up with 11 gallons of apple cider and 6 gallons of pear cider. So we didn't have as much pears this year as we did apples, because in the earlier part of the year we pruned our trees really well, and so we had a little bit less fruit for the pears. But next year is going to be an outstanding year for them once they catch up from their pruning. So here is our 6 gallons of pear, and as you can tell, I said earlier, they're almost identical in what it looks like. So that's why it's critical. Label it as, you know, before you put them together, because you'll not be able to remember. I know I can't remember. So we already labeled our apples, so that's why we can put them together. And then once these cool off and make sure that they seal well, I will label these pear cider. And here is a little bit of leftover pear cider. We've tried our apple cider, and it's delicious. Like I said, with that variety of apples, it really tastes really good. And here's our pear cider that I'm going to try with the variety of pears. It's delicious. But when you drink cider, apple or pear, it really tastes like you're eating the fruit. So, you know, now this, I put ice in this because it was hot, of course. Now, of course, people like warm cider. I personally don't, but people like warm cider, so you can drink it warm. But my tip, though, because I didn't think about that until I just did, but definitely if you put ice in it, it's going to water it down. So if you don't want watered down cider, don't put ice in it. Just put it in your fridge if you want it cold. If you want it warm, of course, you can heat it up. So otherwise, though, it's still good. But yeah, so it has really good taste. Both of them do. And thanks for watching our videos, and I hope that you can try this out at where you live. And thanks for watching, and remember to put a thumbs up, and please subscribe and watch all of our videos because it helps us so much, and we're very appreciative. Have a great night. Bye.